Hi runners, Lewis here from New Levels Coaching, and in this video I wanted to share the biggest mistakes that I see marathon runners make. I have just driven back from Manchester Marathon, which was today, and I was racking my brains in the car thinking, God, I've seen so many mistakes today that people could benefit from. And I thought, you know what, I've never really done like a YouTube video or anything around, I've said about, the most common mistakes, but I've never done a long video on the mistakes people make on marathon day or in the training or in the build-up. That could then people could learn from, which could have a positive impact on their performance further down the line. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to share my thoughts. I'm not going to map anything out. I'm not going to plan it all down. I'm just going to speak from my mind, off the top of my head, about the mistakes that I've seen today that I feel people could learn from, which will help them run their best marathon, whether that's in the near future, that they maybe have one in the spring. It might be that they have one next week. They might be entered in London Marathon, for example. Hopefully they're doing some rest and recovery in between. But ideally, after they've been through that rest and recovery period, they've got a period of time where they're going to plan their next marathon. And I think that's where I wanted to start really is the planning side of things. So as a coaching company, we work with hundreds of athletes. We currently coach around about 150 athletes around the world. And we have a brilliant coaching team who help people to run marathons and all sorts of distances. But our coaching team work hard in order to get people best prepared to stand on that marathon start line. And the biggest mistake that I saw today was probably in the planning and in a couple of instances with this. So firstly, planning ahead, and we call it the 4Ps. So our coaches work off a system called the 4Ps, planning, preparation, practice, and pacing. And I'm going to start with the planning and the preparation because I think a lot of people go into the marathon and they are underprepared. They've not done the training, and that's quite obvious. You see people limping and cramping quite early, and that's usually due to the fact that they've either taken some shortcuts or they've had some problems in the build-up and they've not done the training or they're not best prepared. But then let's go to outside of the running. They're also not prepared with things like the kit they're going to wear or the shoes they're going to wear. The amount of people I saw today who are having chafing problems or issues with nipple rubbing and bleeding all over their vest, and I just thought to myself, have you not prepared that? Have you not planned that? Have you not practiced that? All those 4Ps that you should be doing in your training to make sure that things go right on the day of the race. Like those are just basic things that you can be getting right, which are going to help you to run a better marathon. It's not always just about the pacing that people become obsessed with. It's not all about the time that you want to run and the splits that you want to hit. It's looking at those basics and thinking, have I got the right vest? Does it not rub on my chest so it's going to cause me problems? Am I wearing the right shorts for me? Are my gels and things not bouncing around? The amount of times I've seen people dropping gels or they were falling out the pocket and then they're stopping to pick them up, bumping into people. Like, these are not just vital seconds and minutes that you could lose. You're also losing your rhythm as well when you're doing that. And you're losing concentration. You're probably panicking a little bit. You're upsetting your rhythm, your balance, just everything that's going. So basic errors that actually start in training that you can practice and really go into marathon day prepared so that you're in a really good place to execute the best possible race. So that was mistake number one, was people just hadn't planned ahead, they hadn't prepared, and they hadn't prepared the basics like their kit, for example. Mistake number two was preparation prior to the day. So things like planning what you're going to eat, maybe booking a restaurant. We even struggle. I went to Manchester with a friend who I coach, and he goes out every week and he eats. He's like, no, we won't have any problems getting food out here. We're not in the city centre. Everywhere was booked up, literally everywhere. Thankfully, Pizza Express saved the day, but it shows you that you've got to think ahead, prepare. What are you going to eat? Where are you going to eat? Now, sensibly, the athlete I was working with had a lot of food in the house anyway as a fallback if we needed to go back to the flat and eat. But also, he had his nutrition nailed down for prior to the marathon. And I see so many people. I've seen people at a coffee shop on the morning panicking, trying to get a coffee and some food to put into themselves before the marathon day. My best guess is that the hotel wasn't serving breakfast or something like that. And then you're running to and this was like a greasy cafe, by the way, greasy calf, getting something into you and trying to get prepared. Now I was in there getting a brew and I'm sipping on my brew now because I've literally just got out the car and thought, you know what, I need to record these thoughts. I need to get these down because people can benefit from these. And as long as I'm providing value in some way to our audience, whether that's a free video on YouTube or whether that's coaching in person at some of our workshops or whether it's one-to-one coaching online, I wanted to get this out there to think, surely someone can benefit from this. So whether it's just one person watches this video, hopefully more than that, hopefully a lot more watch it than that, but fingers crossed you get some benefit from this. So anyway, I've got my brew, I'm sitting cozy, and I'm kind of going through everything in my head. So apologies if it's a little bit part and I'm going around the house a bit, but I want to make sure I tick everything off. So preparation, planning, practice. Like, practice these things in training. Practice your pacing. The other thing, I stood at just about 4.5 miles in Deansgate, and the amount of people that you could see flying past you that were visibly going too fast. Like, it was obvious. It was so obvious that they were going too quick. Even we could see it from the outside. How did they not know that? It might be that they'd not practiced their pacing. It might be that they didn't even have a pacing strategy. And the best way to pace a marathon is to try and, well, what we call perform a negative split. Our coaches work with people to control that first half so that they can finish stronger. And the reason for that, without going into too much of the science, is that you control the intensity so that you don't burn too much fuel. Your muscles don't fatigue as quickly. You're in control, so that muscle deterioration doesn't affect you a lot sooner. And it's not that you should be able to pick up the pace massively, but you should feel strong in that second half, and hopefully you can finish a little bit faster. And I know a lot of people are going to be sat at home thinking, that's a load of BS. What's he talking about? That's only for elite athletes. It absolutely isn't. Look, we've worked with thousands of runners now as a coaching team, and the people who get the best results are the people who nail their pacing strategy. Like today, so the day before, I had a chat with one of our runners who's coached by Charlie, one of our coaches, and he had a pacing plan, and he said, look, I wanted to break 3 hours, but Charlie said he thinks I could run closer to 2:55 based on the training. Now, that's great when you've got a coach working with you and they understand that. And thankfully, he ran 2:53. So, what an achievement. Smashed the 3 hour barrier. But Charlie gave him that confidence to go off a little bit faster, but not too quick either. He ran 2:53. He was capable of picking up, and he did pick up. And then some of the athletes who I work with, I was saying to them, look, just hang back a little bit. One of the athletes I work with had an aim just to complete the distance. So I was like, well, if the aim's to complete the distance, let's go off a little bit easier to give yourself the best possible chance to complete the marathon. So it's coming up with strategies, pacing strategies, that are best suited to your aims. And that's another great tip for how to run your best marathon. So we've gone through like the planning, we've gone through the preparation, we've gone through the practicing, and we've gone through the pacing. Now, the final thing is about the execution of the race. And this just blows my mind. Now, I'm all for enjoying a marathon, and trust me, when I've run a marathon, I did Manchester, I paced a group a few years ago. I paced a group to run 2:38. It's the only marathon I've ever done, but I have coached, well, personally, I've coached hundreds of marathon runners now, whether that's on workshops who've then come through group coaching, who've then gone on to run a marathon, or whether it's one-to-one coaching. And I've coached people from 2:20-ish all the way back to people who run in 6 hours for their first marathon and then want to improve from there. So I have experience of running a marathon myself, and I also have experience of working with people of all different abilities. So I'm not just coming at this from an elite angle. I want to make that clear. And I don't want to offend anyone by saying, this is the way you should run. It should be fast. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is there are certain characteristics and certain traits of how to execute your best marathon. And the stuff that I'm giving you in this video, which hopefully help you, are applicable to anyone across the board. Doesn't matter where you are, whether you're at the front, whether you're in the middle, whether you're towards the back. You're all trying to achieve the same goal, and that is the beauty of the marathon. 26.2 miles, you're all going to tick it off. So back to my point, the execution. No matter where you are in that marathon, don't start weaving around. Don't start trying to weave around the crowds. That is just absolutely bonkers. You're going to clock up so much distance. You're going to waste so much energy. The other thing, don't go around high-fiving everyone. Don't go running to the side. Then it's not just like a silly thing to do from your own perspective. It's also dangerous. I've seen people like running into people because they were trying to high-five people. Your family and friends are on the side. Try again, preparation. Find out where they're going to be roughly. Have an idea. Move towards them slowly, but make sure it's safe to do so. The last thing you want to do is hit the deck. I seen a guy with a patch on his face. He'd gone over, he'd hit his face, and he'd had to go to St. John's ambulance. Like, that isn't how to run your best marathon, is it? Like, hitting the deck, having to stop to get patched up. Again, it sounds like the basics, but sometimes the basics are the best methods in order to run your best race. And I hope I'm getting that across. So back to the execution. The other thing, drink stations, water stations, take your time with it. It's like a mad rush. People go mental. It's like there's a water station there. I'm going to go absolutely crazy. Boom, all fly over, all crashing into each other. You don't need to do that. Take your time. Be careful with it. Again, if you need to slow down to get that water in, then do that. Just slow down a little bit. Don't be obsessed with the watch. Watch, next one, execution. That watch is going to play havoc with you, especially if it's got GPS on. If you go into the build-up area like Deansgate, which is what happened to me when I ran it, the watch just goes all over the shop. So if you're trying to run to split, just be aware that isn't going to give you the right split. You've got to be really aware of the feel and the rhythm that you're running in. Best tip for that? Well, if you're in a rhythm and you're running in a rhythm and you've not changed that rhythm, then you've not changed your pace. Use common sense here. Like, it literally is the best protocol. Use common sense. I've not picked up. I've not slowed down. I'm not really moving through the crowd. The crowd aren't really coming past me, so I can't have changed my pace. So my watch is wrong. I'm right. My watch is wrong. That'll play catch up. The other thing you can do, you can manually lap your watch. So you could manually lap it as you go through the mile markers or the 5K markers to give you an idea of the rhythm that you're running. But don't become obsessed with every single split being the same, because the course is different. So you might have a slightly uphill section, one split might be slower. Then you might have a slight downhill section, might be slightly faster. And that's fine, as long as the rhythm that you're in is rhythmic. It's similar and it's the right rhythm for you. And then the other thing around, I guess, falls into pacing, but it's more the execution, is these pacing groups. And this was like one of my, I guess, memorable, funny moments from today, was watching those pacing groups at mile 4.5, and honestly, like, hundreds of people around the paces. And then I stood at 25.5 miles, just at a pub near the finish. Well, actually, it was more than that. It was 500 meters to go. So just over, so more like 25.75 miles. And guess what? The pacers were running in, and hardly anyone was with them. The reason I don't like people following paces, my camera's flipped round. I need to flip it back up so that you can still tune in. I might have to hold it here because I don't know what's happened with that. But hopefully that's not spoiled your video. In fact, I'm going to grab it because it just seems to be... bear with me 1 second. That's a bit annoying, isn't it? But I'm going to say it unedited. I'm doing it off the cuff, so I'm not going to change it. But yeah, the pacemakers, absolutely mental. Like, the amount of people following him, you don't even know what pace they're going. They could do anything. But also, you're having to get through crowds. You're all having to get the water station at the same time. Like, ridiculously difficult. You're putting your trust in someone you've never met before, which for me is bonkers. So why not just sit off at your own pace? Oh, final one, sorry. Again, just going off on a tangent a bit. They also run too fast. They go faster because they're trying to get as many people through the line as possible under that time. But by doing that, they kill people off. So that's the final one on pacing. The final one to leave you with is the shoes. The shoes. Okay, honesty is the best policy here. Half the people, if not more, wearing those shoes should not be in them. When I refer to the shoes, I'm meaning the carbon shoes. Pretty much everyone has bought them because, understandably, they are sold as like these magic shoes, these super shoes that are going to improve your performance. Is that true? To a certain extent, yes, they give people a benefit. But a lot of the people that I see wearing super shoes are more likely to invest 250 quid in a pair of shoes than pay for, say, online coaching, which I believe, and I'm not just selling this because it's my own company, I believe is a lot more valuable, because no matter who you are, whether you're an elite athlete or whether you're looking to do your first marathon, whether you're looking to walk a marathon, the thing that is going to get you the best result is the right training. So before you even think about putting those shoes on, you have to execute the training. You can't just rock up and put these shoes on and think you're going to run a quick marathon. It doesn't work like that. That's not how it works. So people think, right, I'm going to get a quick fix. I'm going to buy these shoes and they're going to solve all my problems. No, they're not going to solve all your problems. And if anything, they're more likely to give you problems, because what happens is they force you to go to a rhythm that's too fast, which then forces you to slow down, which potentially leads to things like muscle cramp and muscle damage, because you can't sustain the pace that you've set in these super shoes. And I've seen so many people who are just going way too fast, and you can hear the thud on the ground with these shoes. And I'm thinking, those shoes are doing you a disservice right now. So before you go and buy your next pair of super shoes, just have a think. Are they going to benefit you, or are you better off spending your time and potentially your money doing the right sort of training first? And again, that could be me plugging for my own coaching company, but I would say about anything, like, why not invest in yourself first and invest in your lifestyle, your nutrition? Sleep's free. Why don't you sleep better, work on that? But potentially get a coach or go to a running club that's going to help you to do the right training, that's going to help you to run your best marathon. I think that's everything. About a 15-minute video there, but I hope you found that useful. Apologies for the camera tilt. It just kind of went whoop, whoop. So apologies about that halfway through. I hope that you've got some benefit from that. I hope you've got some value from that. We had some cracking results as a team, so a massive well done to all our New Levels coaching athletes who are out there on course. It was brilliant to watch you all. I really enjoyed it, and a well done to our coaching team. We've got some fantastic results, especially those who are doing their first ever marathon. Well done for completing that, and for those who set some personal bests on the day as well, which I know from the top of my head, we had 5 new personal bests and we had 1 new first-time marathon runner. So well done, NLC. Big shout out to you. Well done to everybody who completed the Manchester Marathon. If you started it and you didn't get what you wanted out of it, then hopefully this video has helped you to learn a little bit more about how to run your best marathon.